Warning, this episode contains strong language or mature themes. Parental discretion is advised.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Alright.
Cool.
Welcome to this podcast is Uncalled For.
What's uncalled for about it?
Well, you can't tell anybody this.
I'm listening.
Oh my God, what are you doing? I worship Cthulhu just for the free beer.
Eggs are cheap and so are pancakes.
But you didn't even give a chance for a wild card spot!
What are we doing with Tijuana?
And you're like, what did you just say?
Yeah.
The exact sound I make when I'm...
That is uncalled for, Michael.
Well, the name of this podcast is Stuff Uncalled For?
This podcast is uncalled for.
Podcast, alright.
Yeah, that was the most ridiculous ending to that game that I've ever seen.
Oh my gosh, I gotta hurry up. Oh my gosh, I gotta hurry up. Oh my gosh, I gotta hurry up.
We're looking at each other in the eye. We're not going to say anything derogatory to the other person. And, of course, neither of us is drunk.
So I don't hear Pope Francis saying that he's a prophet, seer, and revelator.
What planet are these people on?
And the Lord take you back from...
See, this is a disgrace.
How'd that happen, really?
And it's got Chick-fil-A.
Don't think. I don't allow you to think.
Hey, we're getting somewhere.
And now, your host for this podcast, Mike Chernevsky.
Fuji! Welcome to the podcast. We're winding down our fourth season of the podcast. It is very unlikely that I'll be able to schedule an interview in time to wrap this season up. But starting in season 5, we should hopefully have some more interviews to share with you guys. It's a matter of getting everything scheduled and all that. And I do have a few people in mind. Let's hopefully gonna make this happen sooner rather than later. So we'll close out season 4 with a couple of thoughts episodes, and we'll start with the fun one first. I have 3 working theories in regards to sports in the United States, 2 of which I have absolutely addressed on the podcast. The first being the whole St. Louis NFL situation, where, I'm sorry, a team was lied out of town. And at the time of this recording, it is still scheduled for trial. By the time this episode releases, hopefully it will have gone to trial. And we'll see what happens. And the other one, of course, is promotion and relegation in U.S. soccer. And I'm very pleased with how NISA has been going about making some form of that happen. And thus I've been paying a lot of attention lately to the NISA, National Independent Soccer Association, and their setup. And I wish them nothing but success and hope that their work will revolutionize the way we think of the beautiful game here in this country. But today we're going to talk about the third sports truth, I'm going to call it. And this is one we haven't really talked about on the podcast. I've touched on it a couple times, but we haven't really fully discussed it. And I think it's time to do so, especially because this is a thing I've been in the corner of, shall we say, for 20 years minimum. And that is getting our ballpark in downtown Kansas City. All right. Kansas City is one of, I want to say, a handful of cities that does not have a downtown Major League Baseball park. Our ballpark you wouldn't know it's just looking at the place, but it is like on the eastern fringe of the city, near the eastern suburbs, namely Independence and Raytown, are both pretty close. At the interchange of 435 and I-70, with Arrowhead Stadium right beneath it, right behind it rather, and nothing else. It's all surrounded by parking lot. The closest restaurants and the closest hotel, you have to cross Blue Ridge Parkway to get there, and that is a pretty sizable street. Everything, and it's a Taco Bell. Part one where they fucked up back in the 70s when they built that thing is that it's not downtown. It's 7 miles east of downtown. And parts two where they fucked up was not putting a lot of development around it. Now in recent years, they kind of sort of learned from these mistakes with other developments around Stadia in the metro area. Outside of Sprint Center, or T-Mobile Center, it's called now because T-Mobile bought out Sprint. None of this is downtown. You have the little ice hockey arena in Independence, and you have Sporting Park, the minor league ballpark, and the racetrack, all in western KCK. Granted, all up and down I-70 from one another, but still not downtown in size. However, around that arena and around Sporting Park area, you have immense walkability and everything too. Shops and restaurants afterwards. So after you attend a game, you could just walk across the street, get something to eat before trying to head home, as opposed to the current situation where, okay, game's over, everybody go home. Massive traffic jams, and all that. And anyone who has ever driven in that part of Jackson County knows that knows to avoid that part of town on game days and stuff, especially during football season. Look across the states from us in St. Louis. All the sports teams, all the major ones, are downtown. Busch Stadium, both the olds, the cookie cutter that mercifully got torn down, and the current one, are both not only downtown, but it's incredibly walkable. I think right across the street from Busch Stadium is the anyone in St. Louis can feel free to correct me, the Ballpark Village, which I won't set foot in for the same reason I won't set foot in Power and Light District, because they're both owned by the same douchey company, Cordish, and you are on notice, Cordish. It's within there's right outside the stadium is a Metrolink stop, and the Blues are just one Metrolink stop down near Union Station. The football team, when that was still a thing, that was the other way, going up to the convention center. Again, walkable. I find downtown St. Louis to be extremely walkable. And everything, and there's no good reason for that to not be the case in Kansas City, in the same goddamn state. And there's plenty of precedent for teams abandoning suburban or outer edge stadiums for something more downtown. San Diego is a good example. A better example from my point of view is Houston. All right, the Astrodome is anywhere but downtown Houston. Sorry to say. And they built the Texans stadium right next door to it. The Astrodome it's just sitting there right now. So if anyone in Houston is listening to this, please find something useful for such an iconic and historic building. Meanwhile, the Astros Minute Maid Park is downtown. And in fact, it is on the opposite side of their convention center from the Toyota Center where the Rockets play. And the Rockets' old stadium, the Summits, that's not downtown, but that still stands. It's actually Joel Osteen's church. But Houston figured it out. Get your teams downtown. Well, with the obvious exception of the football team. And look, anywhere within reasonable distance of Kansas City, Minneapolis, there, the Target Field, that's downtown Minneapolis. In fact, I got to see it being built when I was up there. Minneapolis, great example of what a vibrant downtown can and should be. Everything. They have an entire street closed off, the Nicolai Mall, just closed off to traffic. You can walk up and down, no problems, and everything. It's like a one street version of the Plaza, to give a Kansas City reference, and a couple of mayors, I'm not going to name names, tried to push this idea of the Plaza being part of an extended downtown. I don't necessarily buy that, but I get your point. So yeah, that Cleveland, that is absolutely downtown for the Guardians now, not Indians, Guardians, starting 2021 when this episode comes out. Pittsburgh, another good example. That's about the only thing I can find on a Pittsburgh map is where the stadiums are, because that's where Three Rivers Stadium used to be. It got torn down. And Pirates baseball on one side and Steelers on the other. The Three Rivers site is now a parking lot for the two, and it's right on the confluence of the Allegheny and Monongahela into the Ohio. And again, don't ask me which of the two rivers is the Allegheny and which one's the Monongahela, because I don't fucking know. But I can't tell you which one the Ohio is, because the park points in the direction of the Ohio. And I'm pretty sure the vast majority of Major League Baseball stadia are in a downtown district. And I think it's important for baseball to be downtown. 162 games a year. Or if you want to think of it in terms of home games, that's 81 per year. People just show up, and if you do it right, put it in a downtown district with shops and restaurants and everything around it. People stay downtown. It'll help the city and the metropolitan area overall. It'll help connect everyone with the heart of the city, and the heart of the city is it's downtown. And of course, walkability. Our metro area is not exactly walkable. In fact, I find St. Louis to be more walkable than I do Kansas City. So, and nowhere is that more easily demonstrated than the fact that the fucking stadium is out in pretty much the suburbs. And they failed to build around it. So, well, there is talk lately of the Royals finally doing the right thing. All right, they had a chance to do the right thing 20 years ago when this first came up, but they said, "Nah, we're just going to stay out in a now 50-year-old stadium in the middle of goddamn nowhere with absolutely nothing going on around it except for a football team that's only been two straight Super Bowl appearances, but before that 50 goddamn years without sniffing that very poorly located everything. I'm glad to see this new ownership group looking at downtown. Now, which sites are they talking about downtown? Well, the one I prefer, that's about 12th and Charlotte's, for those of you not familiar with the area. Right now, that area is empty field, seas of parking lots, and a bus terminal. That's it. There's plenty of space to build a ballpark right there. Another site I've seen is right across from the Kauffman Center, not to be confused with Kauffman Stadium. The Kauffman Center was opened about 10 years ago. I've talked about my experiences in there with the symphony and doing TV and everything. Right across the street to just due south. Right now, that's largely an empty field, but on the southern part of that field is community garden. And across the street from that community garden is where Coda used to be. So I know that area pretty darn well. And if the eastern part of the loop doesn't pan out, then I would think that's an acceptable site right in the middle of the crossroads. Everything. A third location I saw was within the northern part of the downtown loop. You still have to cross highway to get there, but it's close to the River Market. Not exactly where Luke was talking about when we broached it the first time Luke and Dan were on the podcast, but fairly close. And of the sites I've seen, the closest to where the streetcar currently runs. And I'll touch a little bit about the streetcar a little later on. And the fourth, they're saying, well, near 18th and Vine. I don't consider 18th and Vine downtown, although it's fairly close, but it's not really downtown. But it is close to the intersection of 22nd and Brooklyn, which is currently a community park with a community garden and some housing. But that's the old site of the old municipal stadium where the Royals used to play, where the Chiefs used to play, where the A's used to play before they moved to Oakland. They were here in Kansas City, and that's where they played. And even before that, that's the historic home of the KC Monarchs, the Negro Leagues team. And I kind of get that one because the Negro Leagues Museum is at 18th and Vine, and they have youth baseball set up there. That's, again, I don't really consider that part of downtown. So it needs to be one of the other three sites, which does get. I think a lot of the bitching about even talking about this subject with some people. Oh, it's a beautiful park. It's 50 years old. 50 years old in a very bad location. All right, and they didn't do shit around the ballpark. And we're talking about a baseball team that, outside of the two Florida teams, outside of the Marlins and the Rays, are the least valuable team in all of baseball. And this goes to what we talked about earlier about cars and public transits. We have to find a way to improve public transits in, everywhere, but especially in this city. And I saw in an article recently that's the Area Transit Authority is thinking about doing an east-west streetcar. Well, that would be a good opportunity to put a streetcar line right next to any proposed stadium sites from downtown. So, make this happen. But let's talk about walkability, because there's a great article at torontoist.com. This is, Toronto centric, but so they have baseball there. We rank the walkability of Major League Baseball stadiums and look down on cities that aren't Toronto. Take them all. Again, this is a Toronto-based site. So their top 5 for walkability. Well, no surprise, the Sky Dome. Dang it, the Sky Dome is a downtown ballpark. So, number 2, Wrigley Field in Chicago. Not being a Chicagoan myself, I'm not exactly sure where their downtown ends and begins and everything. But I think Wrigley's probably the exception to this downtown rule for me. 3, Fenway Park, absolutely downtown Boston. 4, AT&T Park in San Francisco. I think that's a downtown. I'm pretty confident that's downtown. And number 5, Comerica Park in Detroit, I know is downtown. And Tiger Stadium before that was downtown. I'm going to read this paragraph that follows this list. Not surprisingly, stadiums with downtown cores, as in San Francisco and Detroit, did well, and so did baseball's 2 oldest stadiums, Wrigley and Fenway, both located outside their cities' near cores, but still in dense urban neighborhoods. Honorable mentions go to downtown ballparks in Cleveland, Baltimore, Detroit, and Houston. Their cities are adjacent to urban rail transit stations. Remember what I just said about the streetcars? As well as vibrant nearby streets full of bars, restaurants, and shopping, which I've also talked about in this episode. Coincidentally, the teams with the 2 best walk scores, Toronto and the Cubs, are also first and second in-game walks last year. The 5 least walkable are the Oakland Coliseum, which is such a shithole that I'm surprised that the A's are even still using it. It's such a shithole that the Raiders had to leave for Vegas. But that's a different conversation altogether. I'm shocked that it's still standing, and would not be shocked if the A's wound up leaving town. I have heard that they're entertaining Vegas as well. So congratulations, Oakland went from 3 teams to on the precipice of none. Next is Dodger Stadium. Again, not knowing Los Angeles or anything, but I know that LA is, we all know LA is not a walkable city at all. Alright. Third to last, Kauffman Stadium, for all the reasons I've been talking about. Next is Globe Life Park in Arlington. Not to be confused with the prison of Arlington, which they just moved out of, but I guess nearby, and it looks nothing like a maximum security prison. Unlike the stadium they just left. And I think it's fairly close to Jerry World. By the way, in this just minimum research, I learned that Arlington, Texas, right between Dallas and Fort Worth, has no public transit. So what the fuck? Then again, it is Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas, as they always say. And if anyone is listening from Arlington, Texas, please address this. And I know people are listening in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, so yeah, please address this. And some of that dead last is Miller Park in Milwaukee. Again, not knowing much about Milwaukee, but I'm pretty sure that's a downtown park. But moving on to the next couple of paragraphs. These stadiums, like many in the U.S., are surrounded by gigantic parking lots. Of the above five, only the Coliseum has access to mass transit. And yeah, there's that paragraph. Arlington has no public transit. In 2017, the Atlanta Braves will move from Turner Field, downtown Atlanta, to a new ballpark in suburban Cobb County. That's even further away from Atlanta's MARTA subway system in a famously conservative county hostile to public transit. But the new stadium, SunTrust Park, will be adjacent. So Atlanta is basically following the current Royals example. So why? I don't get it. Then again, we are talking about the same Atlanta that's tore down a perfectly good Georgia Dome in favor of that god-awful monstrosity that they built for the Dirty Birds. Yeah. And it's just to top it all off, there's another article, Popular Mechanics. They ranked all the stadiums, and I'll go and share that with you. So, number 30, no surprise, Oakland Coliseum. Tear that thing down, please. 29, White Sox. Again, I know it's a north side, south side thing with Chicago. I'm almost certain the south side is closer to downtown, but again, I don't know Chicago all that well, except O'Hare, which is way the hell up north. 28, Tropicana Field for the Rays, another team they're talking about possibly moving. I've heard Montreal, which is a totally different discussion altogether. 27, Angel Stadium in Anaheim for the Angels. 26, Chase Field, Diamondbacks. That one is downtown and famously has a swimming pool in it, which is kind of a good idea when you're in the middle of the desert. Just saying. 25, Nationals Park in Washington, near the old Naval Yards in D.C., which I have been to. Actually, in Texas, they rank the old one, which again, maximum security penitentiary. 23, Cincinnati. I think I'm pretty sure that's downtown Cincinnati. 22, Marlins. Not knowing the geography of Miami all that well, I'm pretty sure it is downtown, but I'm not 100% sure. So don't quote me on that. 21, Phillies. Philadelphia, that's an interesting situation because it's the South Philadelphia. Anyone from Philadelphia, listen to this, please contact me. What the heck do you call that place? Where they have all the stadiums lumped together? The Phillies, the Eagles, and the Sixers and Flyers share a stadium there too, and they're all fairly close together. And look at the photo; you can see the downtown skyline from the Phillies Citizens Bank Park. 20, Houston, that's downtown now. or Minute Maid Park is absolutely downtown, at the corner of Texas and Crawford. 19, we talked about the Blue Jays. 18, Detroit, downtown. 17, Milwaukee. 16, the Mets. I know, Queens. But, so what are either the New York, could either of the New York teams be considered downtown? As when I think downtown and New York, I think Manhattan, and I know the Mets are in Queens, and the Yankees, they haven't come out yet. They're in the Bronx, neither of which are Manhattan, but still, but then again, New York subways, so usually not that big a problem. And 15, the aforementioned new stadium for Atlanta in the middle of the suburbs. 14, Colorado. I'm almost certain that's downtown. 13, Cleveland, definitely downtown. 12, Minnesota, again, definitely downtown. And looking at the photo they have here, there's the beautiful Minneapolis skyline, and right across the street from Target Field is the Target Center, home of the Timberwolves. Which is from where I saw the construction of this thing back in 2008 when I was there. And clear on the other side of town from where the Metrodome once stood is now the Vikings' new stadium. Number 11, Seattle, Safeco Field, or whatever they want to call it now. 10, Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, and I'm almost certain that Seattle is downtown as well. 5, Wrigley Field, we talked about. 4, Busch Stadium, definitely downtown. I've already talked about that. 5, San Diego, Petco Park, which is interesting. Not only is Petco Park downtown San Diego, but incorporates at least 1 or 2 older buildings, like gives them a new lease on life as part of the ballpark, which I think is pretty darn cool. And for some reason, 6 is Kauffman. 6? After all the crap I gave it? No, please redo your list. 5, Baltimore. I'm from what I've heard, this is a downtown ballpark at Camden Yards. Everything, and another reuse of older buildings there. So I think that's really cool. 4 is Fenway. 3, San Francisco, rights on San Francisco Bay. So you could hit home runs into the Bay. 2, Dodger Stadium. We've already talked about. 1, Pirates. Absolutely downtown. And everything. I've already described the sites. All that. So, I highly doubt that anyone in Royals ownership actually listens to this podcast. But on the off chance that they do, please bring this team downtown. That's where they belong. All right, baseball belongs downtown. Football, they can do whatever the fuck they want at the sports complex. All right, you can do all the tailgating you want. That's more of a football thing anyway. You do all the tailgating you want and everything. But baseball, that belongs downtown, and do it right this time. Build restaurants, build shops, hotels, or whatever, and make it walkable for fans. And if anyone wants to bitch about parking, yeah, you can put in a parking garage, which is probably the last thing that we need downtown is another parking garage. But you can do that, and also got the streetcar. Let's get a streetcar line that services any potential new stadium sites. All right. So, quit your bitching and let's do this. All right. I made this argument back in 2001 in a public speaking class at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, which in about a few years' time will be the southern terminus of the streetcar extension. And I'm really excited to see that. And for further context, 2001, downtown KC was practically dead. All right. But in the 10 years following that, you had... I had my issues with Powerline, mostly with their elitist dress codes and everything. But it is bringing people downtown. As is the arena. Bringing people downtown that otherwise probably wouldn't be going downtown. Everything. Why can't we do that with baseball? All right, let's do this. John Sherman, and if you're listening to this, thank you for at least entertaining the idea. Let's make it happen. So, at this time in 2032, hopefully, we'll be able to go to downtown baseball games. And with all that out of the way, I'll go and end this episode, and we'll see you next time on a different subject.
This podcast is Uncalled For is hosted, produced and edited by Mike Chernevsky. Opening music is Fantasia by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0 license. Outro music is Work by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast through your favorite podcasting platform. Like our Facebook page at facebook.com/uncalledforpodcast, and check out our blog with show notes at uncalledfor.home.blog. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next time.